Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Crack a Pack a Day. Every day, I'm going to open a booster pack of Magic the Gathering cards and evaluate the contents, choosing one of them to take as if I were taking part in a draft and this was pack one, pick one. Today, we're going to be opening a pack of Magic Origins, the final Magic core set. Like many core sets before it, Origins has a relatively flat power level with a few bombs at the top end. It's also quite fast and aggressive. Let's open the pack up and take a look at what we've got. Our first card is a Mage Ring Bully, a 2/2 human warrior for 1 and a red. It has prowess and it must attack each turn if able. Normally, a 2/2 for 2 is an okay card. Unfortunately, this bear comes with a downside. He has to attack each turn. Obviously, unless you give him haste somehow, he can't do that on the turn you cast him, but any turn after that he's always got to attack, even if your opponent has a 4/4 in play. He does have prowess, so if you cast sorceries, artifacts or enchantments in your first main phase, he'll get a boost. Likewise, casting instants during combat will also give him a boost. Mage Ring Bully is an okay card in an aggressive deck, but you certainly wouldn't want him for any type of control deck. Overall, I don't think I'd want to pick him first. Grasp of the Hiram, an enchantment aura for 1 and a white. It enchants a creature, which gets +1/+1, and gains the triggered ability, whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. Grasp of the Hiram is an okay card. If it has a home, it's in an aggressive deck. You'd especially want to play it on a creature you're going to attack with that turn, so you get the bonuses straight away. Grasp of the Hiram has all of the downsides of auras, in that if your opponent casts removal on the target, you get 2 for 1. It's an okay card, but I don't think I want to take it first. Touch of Moonglove, an instant for black. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. Whenever a creature dealt damage by that creature dies this turn, its controller loses 2 life. Touch of Moonglove is a very cheap combat trick. It basically trades itself for one of your opponent's creatures that are attacking and is blocked by one of your creatures, or is blocking one of your creatures. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do anything to save the creature that you have. Essentially, you're going to 2 for 1 yourself most of the time. Nonetheless, it's a very cheap combat trick, which makes it very worthy of consideration in any deck. I don't think I want to take this card first, but it could be an interesting pick should it come back when I get this pack again. Subterranean Scout, a 2/1 Goblin Scout for 1 and a red. When it enters the battlefield, target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Subterranean Scout is an average card. A 2/1 for 2 is a little under what I'd like, but it does come with a reasonable ability. Allowing one of your creatures with power 2 or less to become unblockable can be useful. One of the key things to note about this is that if you pump the creature's power after this ability resolves, it's still unblockable, so you could pump it up with a pump spell at any point afterwards. Subterranean Scout is good on turn 2, and has a moderate ability that's useful in later turns, but I don't think he's going to be my first pick. Caustic Caterpillar is a 1/1 insect for green. It has the ability 1 and a green, and sacrifice Caustic Caterpillar to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Caustic Caterpillar is a sideboard card. Any 1/1 for 1 needs to have a good ability to be considered playable, and destroy target artifact or enchantment is a sideboard card at best. You most certainly don't want to be running a Caustic Caterpillar in your main deck, so I don't think I'll be taking this first. Send to Sleep, an instant for 1 and a blue. Tap up to 2 target creatures. If you have Spell Mastery, those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap steps. I think you really want to cast Send to Sleep when you already have Spell Mastery. If you cast it when you don't have Spell Mastery, the ability isn't really worth the card that you're using to have it in your deck. Tapping up to 2 target creatures can be useful, but you'd really rather freeze them so that they don't untap next turn. That means you can take out 2 of your opponent's potential attackers, and they won't be able to block for the next 2 turns. Once you've taken a number of instants and sorceries, Send to Sleep certainly becomes a better card, but taking it first, I'm not sure I really want to do that. Leaf Gilder, a 2/1 elf druid for 1 and a green. It has the ability tap, add green to your mana pool. I like Leaf Gilder. It's a 2/1 for 2, which is a little small for what you're paying, but he more than makes up for it with that tap ability. If you have him in your opening hand, you can cast him on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you're either attacking in for 2, or you're casting a 4-drop. Either of those scenarios sounds good to me. Overall, I think Leaf Gilder is the best card in the pack so far. Guardians of Miletus, an 0/6 artifact creature golem for 3 colourless. It has Defender. Whilst it's very useful as a blocker, that's not really how you tend to win games in Magic Origins Draft. It isn't a card that helps you win the game, simply it helps you not lose the game. For that reason, I simply can't really consider this as my first pick. Fiery Impulse, an instant for red. It deals 2 damage to target creature. If you have Spell Mastery, it deals 3 damage instead. Fiery Impulse is probably one of the best removal spells in the set, simply because it only costs 1 mana. For your 1 mana, you're either getting a shock or a lightning bolt against a creature at instant speed. It's simply very efficient. You get an awful lot for that 1 mana. It's so cheap that you can probably cast another spell and leave the mana up for this in one go. I think Fiery Impulse is one of the best cards in the pack so far. Return Centaur, a 2/4 zombie centaur for 3 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. For the most part, you're probably not going to want to have Return Centaur in your deck. It's quite a defensive card with that high toughness, and it doesn't really attack too well. Your opponent could block it with 2 2/2s, and you're probably trading your 4-drop for their 2-drop. If you do include it in your deck, you'd probably want that mill ability targeting yourself, because black has a number of cards that it can use to target things in its own graveyard. All in all, I'm probably not going to take Return Centaur as my first pick. Psychic Rebuttal, an instant for 1 and a blue. Counter target instant or sorcery spell that targets you. If you have Spell Mastery, you may copy the spell countered this way, and you may choose new targets for the copy. I personally think that Psychic Rebuttal is far too narrow to consider using in a limited deck. At best, it's probably a sideboard card that you would bring in if you see in Game 1 that your opponent has 2, 3, 4 spells that target you directly. In just about any other circumstances, I don't think it's worth putting in your deck. Psychic Rebuttal isn't going to be my first pick. Skarb Goliath, a 6/9 zombie giant for 5 and a blue. As an additional cost to cast Skarb Goliath, exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard. It also has Trample. Skarb Goliath is a very big creature with Trample, making it ideal to be at the top of the curve of an aggressive deck. Its additional cost also goes well with an aggressive deck, because it's very likely that you'll have lost 2 or more creatures in the process of getting to 6 mana. Having said that, it's not very exciting, and in particular, if you only had 2 creatures in your graveyard and your opponent bounces Skarb Goliath, then you're not going to be able to replay it. Also, blue isn't very well known as being an aggressive colour, so this might not be a good fit in any blue deck. Overall, it's a fairly reasonable card, but I don't think it's going to be my first pick. Jessian Thief, a 1/3 human rogue for 2 and a blue. It has prowess, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. I like Jessian Thief because it's a repeatable source of card advantage, and the prowess helps because it makes your opponent's blocking decisions a little bit difficult. Overall, I'd say Jessian Thief is in the running for the first pick. Our rare is Knight of the White Orchid, a 2/2 human knight for white-white. It has first strike, and when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. As a 2/2 for 2 with first strike, Knight of the White Orchid is extremely efficient and effective in an aggressive format like Magic Origins, on both the offensive and the defensive. The double white in the casting cost means that you've got to have a heavily white deck. You're going to want at least 10 plains in your 40 card deck to consider playing this on turn 2. To make the most of its second ability, you're going to want to be going second. Then, on turn 3, cast it before you play your land. You'll be able to get a plains from your library onto the battlefield, play a second land, and then hopefully cast another 2-drop. In that way, you'll have accelerated yourself. Even if you don't make use of the second ability, Knight of the White Orchid is still a very good creature. I may well consider Knight of the White Orchid for my first pick. We also have a mountain and a zombie token. Let's have a quick review of the cards in our pack.
And here's our pack. To me, the standout choice is Fiery Impulse. It's cheap, efficient removal, and that's very hard to beat. Close runners-up, Leaf Gilder and Jessian Thief, followed by Knight of the White Orchid. They're all cheap, efficient creatures with good abilities, but at the end of the day, I think first picking the Fiery Impulse is the best choice. Amongst other things, the Fiery Impulse kills every creature in this pack other than the Returned Centaur and the Skarb Goliath, under the right circumstances. And that's about all we've got time for today. If you disagree with my choice, then please let me know in the comments below, on Facebook, or via Twitter. Have a good day now!